Well, if you've been watching the news, you probably know what we're going to start with today because tributes are pouring in for Pope Francis, who died early this Easter Monday. Now, he had set out to be what was to be called the People's Pope and reform the church to be more progressive and welcoming. Now, he was the first to take a non-judgmental approach to LGBTQ+ issues. He also delivered a long-awaited apology for the Catholic Church's role in residential schools. That's when he came here in 2022, right here to Canada, to issue that apology in person. The question we're going to start the show with, though, is how does the Catholic Church evolve after Pope Francis's death? And the question is, can it evolve? What do you think, Elvira?
Wow. Well, I certainly think that it should. You know, it's sad, obviously, that he passed. And the fact that he's known as the People's Pope, it really sticks with me. It's like, shouldn't they all be the People's Pope?
Oh.
Like, what is sort of the point? I didn't know that was an aspiration. That really should be the goal. Like, what's the point of being the Pope if you're not for the people,
Pope,
right?
Yeah, great point.
And yes, if what he was doing was moving the Catholic Church in the direction of more empathy and leading with love, let's keep that going, right? Yeah.
Does anyone worry about sort of the global trend we're seeing where things seem to be taking a turn to more sort of conservative sides in terms of world leaders?
Yeah.
And so I wonder then, it kind of makes me fearful that the Catholic Church will follow suit with that. Like they will go back to a more quote unquote traditional time and maybe undo some of the things that Francis was doing or that he had hoped to do.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, you know what? Today I actually want to just think about like the impact. When a person passes away, the thing that you remember the most is how they made people feel.
Yeah.
And one thing about this Pope, I think it's clear for everybody, is he made everybody really excited. Do you guys remember? I remember watching the news, and it was around the very beginning when he was announced as the Pope, and there was this footage of people at the Vatican, and it was just a sea of excited Christians there to greet this man. I think this is it. And it was the first time for me as a person who'd gone to church for my entire life that I'd seen religion celebrated. Like he was a rock star almost. I've only seen that kind of behavior for people who are on stage performing. And so in my mind, what I remember and the impact that he had on me, and I think a lot of people, is first of all, he was just different than any other religious leader I'd ever seen before. Just the things that he talked about. He talked about war, he talked about migration, he talked about climate change. He also was trying to bridge the gap between different faiths like Islam and Judaism, because he knew that we are more alike than different. These are the things I'm going to remember. And in the intro, you did mention the fact that the Catholic Church even acknowledged the bad things that they did, and he made sure to apologize face to face with those people. Those are the things that I'm going to remember. And I'm just thinking about the 1.39 billion Christians around the world who are asking that question. It's like, he did all of these wonderful things and we'll remember him for those things, but where are we going
Well, he
now?
did stack the conclave with like-minded people.
Yes.
Almost like stacking the Supreme Court. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he did do that. So it could be very hopeful. We could have
I
more.
think so. You know, it's really tough to be a leader, especially at this time, because there is leading by example, which I think, you know, you just outlined, Andrea. He did lead by example. And then there is a leader who also listens, and I think he was really good at doing both. But he also was not trying to operate like a certain person who is now the president south of the border. He was not the type of leader to say, well, this is what I believe, and therefore this is how the entire church must go. He really was trying to build community so that the church would come along with him and he would gently guide them. And when I think about where's the church going, and I say this as you know, someone who was raised in the Catholic faith, I actually have had a very hard time with the Catholic Church, especially since, and in light of all the atrocities that we've been learning about the residential schools and the fact that 60% of the residential schools in this country were run by the Catholic/Christian faiths, and that there could be so much more that could have been done. And that's the part for me that I've been having a hard time reconciling as a human. I pulled my daughter out of Catholic school for many reasons. And one of them was Catholic Church, Pope Francis, you're not doing enough. And I don't know what it's going to take, but I cannot support a church that doesn't do more. And then I found out about this document, and it is called the Synod of Synodality. It's the worst word in history. It is a 51-page document that Pope Francis wanted to leave behind as his legacy. And it is a 51-page document that says, where will the church go next?
Yeah.
And he did this over 3 years with hundreds of delegates, young people from around the world, and said, what do we need to do next? And guess what was the push in this?
Where? What?
Women's role in the church.
Great.
And LGBTQ unions being recognized. Now, it didn't get where he wanted it to go, but he said this should be a blueprint for where the church goes next.
Do you know what I really hope is also on that document, or that what I hope the next pope is interested in? It's spending money. Because the Vatican,
they have so much.
their assets are worth like in the billions. Some people estimate 10 to 15 billion. And in terms of land that they own, 177 million acres. If they were to spend a fraction of that on doing what the church preaches to do, which is to help people, the change would be transformative. What a great direction that might be for the Catholic Church.
Right.
It'd be good, and maybe return some of the artifacts that Indigenous communities in this country are asking for. Just a start. Just a start. Just a start. So we'll be watching. I think it's going to be very solemn over the next several days. We know there's a lot of 1,000-year-old tradition that's going to unfold. We'll be watching, and perhaps we'll talk about it again here.
Hopefully, you know, maybe the last thing in the synod was watch the movie Conclave. And then,
Great movie to
it
watch.
was a great movie. It was great, but then, but it ends. Spoiler alert, with a very progressive pope, and let's hope
But
for
the
that.
timing of that movie is perfect.
Perfect,
If you
yeah.
haven't seen it, you really should watch
It's
it.
a documentary.
Yeah, if you don't understand what's going on.
Watching tonight.
Practically.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.